Before we get started with today's meeting, I'd like to quickly walk you through our emergency procedures. First things first, please take a moment to silence your phones or other electronic devices. If you need the restrooms, they're just outside the boardroom on the left side of the lobby. Now, in case of an emergency, here's what you need to know. If someone experiences a medical emergency, our on-site Federal Protective Service officers are trained to respond. They'll call 911, perform CPR if needed, and use the automated external defibrillator device mounted in the lobby between the boardroom exit doors. They're also trained to provide first aid. There's a first aid kit at the security desk in the lobby. If we're asked to shelter in place, like during severe weather or a security incident, please stay seated and listen for instructions. Our security team will manage the situation and let us know when it's safe to leave. If the fire alarm sounds, please follow NTSB staff to the nearest exit. There are two main options. You can exit via the stairs next to the stage, or you can exit the same way you came in through the lobby. Please walk, don't run. Once outside, you'll be directed to an assembly area. Stay there until we're clear to come back inside. If there's a small fire, our security officers are trained to respond using one of the fire extinguishers. You'll find them in 3 locations: by the stairwells on either side of the stage at the front of the boardroom, mounted on the wall in the back of the boardroom, and near the security area in the lobby. For anyone who needs an accessible evacuation route, you can use the door to the left side of the lobby, which leads into the parking garage. From there, turn right and follow the walkway to the street level. NTSB staff will be available to assist anyone who needs help. And finally, safety is everyone's responsibility. If you see anything that seems off or concerning, please let a staff member or security officer know right away. Thank you for helping us maintain a safe and secure space.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hamady. That concludes my remarks.
Thanks, Dr. Bauer. I'm now going to introduce the NTSB staff. Next to Dan in the front row, we have Mr. Bryce Banning, our investigator in charge, or IIC, for this investigation. Mr. Brian Soper, lead aviation accident investigator, air traffic control. Ms. Sarah Lewis, aviation accident investigator, air traffic control. Dr. Catherine Wilson, senior human performance investigator, and Captain Van McKinney, aerospace engineer, helicopters. In the middle row, we have Mr. Chihoon Shin, aerospace engineer, helicopters, Ms. Marie Moeller, mechanical engineer, vehicle performance, Mr. Michael Portman, aerospace engineer, recorder specialist, Dr. William Bramble, national resource specialist, human performance, Captain Rocky Stone, aviation accident investigator, air carrier operations, and Mr. Sean Payne, branch chief, vehicle recorders division. In the back row, we have Mr. Brian Fuchs, materials engineer, who will operate the audio visuals, Mr. Anthony Lamb, transportation safety specialist, who will operate the timer, Dr. Jana Price, transportation safety specialist, Dr. Lauren Groff, chief data scientist, Mr. John Flynn, aerospace engineer systems, and Mr. Tim LeBaron, director of our Office of Aviation Safety. Behind me is Mr. Daniel Baranovsky, who will provide legal support. For those in the room, several representatives from our Transportation Disaster Assistance Division are here to provide support to anyone who need it. Can I have those representatives please stand up so people know where you're at? Thank you so much, Elias and Max. And I see Sarah at the back there. Once again, I want to thank the American Red Cross for being here. Volunteer mental health clinicians from the Red Cross will be available for the duration of this hearing to provide emotional support for anyone who's attending. Now, let's reintroduce the parties to the hearing. As I call the name of each party, I ask the designated spokesperson to identify themselves and then introduce others at their table. Please push the microphone button to talk and push it again when you're finished. Airline Pilots Association.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Captain Dana. I'm one with ALPA, party coordinator and spokesperson. With me today, Chris Heck, Captain Matt Gorshey, Shea Boehm, Captain Mike Palazzolo, and Captain Russell Page.
Nice to see you, ALPA, in alphabetical order. Federal Aviation Administration.
Good morning, Chairwoman. I'm Todd Gentry. I'm the manager of the FAA's Accident Investigation Division. Beside me is Patrick Lush, my lead investigator and party coordinator. Beside him is Art Sheffield for ATO. He's my subject matter expert. Heidi Kemner is my hearing officer. And across from me is Chris Stevenson, which is my general counsel.
Wonderful. Good to see you, FAA. NADCA.
Good morning, Chair. John Murdoch, the party spokesman. To my right is Karina Marinas, air safety investigator. To her right is Natalie Moffett, legal counselor for NECA. Across the table from me, Seth Myers, aviation safety investigator. To his left, Cher Oxenberg, safety representative. And then to her left is Sandy Fulmer, safety representative.
Wonderful. PSA Airlines. I should not leave you out. Good to see you too, NADCA. PSA Airlines.
Good morning. My name is Darren Hall. I'm the Vice President of Safety, Security, and Development for PSA Airlines. With me is our Director of Operations, Captain Lucas Bowden, and beside me is our legal counsel, Benjamin Allen.
Thank you so much, PSA and Sikorsky.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Dave Blair, the Chief Pilot for Safety with Sikorsky. Behind me is Jill Browning, our Chief Air Safety Investigator. To my right is Paul Bowles, our counsel. To my other right is Kyle DeLong, our Director of Aviation Safety and Airworthiness, and Dan Cooper, who you met earlier, our Senior Technical Fellow with Lockheed Martin and Sikorsky.
Yes, thank you very much. And U.S. Army.
Good morning, Chair. Brigadier General Matt Brayman. I'm the Army spokesperson. With me is Colonel Matt Parker as our Army party coordinator. We've got Colonel Kevin Easter, our Deputy Director of Aviation. We've got Colonel Noah Fontenez, who is our legal counsel. We're joined today from yesterday with CBFI Robert Phillips, who's the Army Standardization Officer. And we've got Miss Sydney Tutine, who is an air traffic specialist for the Army.
Thank you very much. And as a reminder, only the designated party spokesperson may question the witnesses on behalf of their respective organization. I'd now like to provide a general overview of today's proceedings. You may wish to refer to the hearing agenda for more details. Please plan to be here until around 7 p.m. today. We obviously ran later than that last night, and we'll do that again today if we need to. We only have one opportunity for this hearing, and we want to make sure that everybody has time to ask their questions. At some point, we'll break for lunch, and as needed throughout, we'll take smaller breaks. Please remain flexible. I do not know what to tell you about the restroom situation or air conditioning. I'm going to have a call with GSA for the 50,000th time later today. It's not them, actually. So we are doing the best we can. For the parties and for the witnesses, we do have a key for restrooms down here. So if you need it, just come see one of us, and we'll make sure that you all have what you need, because your presence here is needed in a more timely way. Not that others are not, but there are restrooms in the Hilton in the meantime, and also in L'Enfant Plaza around the food court. I apologize. We are doing the best that we can. So panel 3 will begin in a moment. Like I said, we want to make sure everyone is asking questions, and I alone I'm going to be honest, have 20 pages worth of questions from everything that I've looked at. The docket for air traffic control is very extensive. It is very lengthy, thousands of pages. It might be hundreds, but it seems like thousands of pages. Okay, it wasn't just me. Okay, and we read them all, we study them, and so it might take a while. It's very important to me, especially more important than I think, and I think the members would agree, that the technical panel be able to ask their questions. They are the investigators. I do not want them shortchanged at all. Parties also have questions. We have questions. So I'm going to warn you, if I do not want you or anyone else to feel like you're rushed, that you can't ask more questions. I've said this to our amazing staff. So that means this panel may go all day. If that happens and I start seeing it, that means panel 4 might move to tomorrow with panel 5. We just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can. Also, I know that means that witnesses are going to need breaks. I'll make sure that we keep track of that. FAA, Todd, if you feel like, or any of your party reps, if you feel like you're hearing from folks or you're seeing that they might need a break, communicate that to Dan, and we'll make sure that everybody is accommodated, because I know it could be a long day. So panel 3's focus is training, guidance, and procedures applicable to DCA air traffic control. As I said, if we have time, we'll move on to panel 4. It might move to tomorrow, but that is going to be an overview of collision avoidance technology. We'll follow the same process on both panels. Dr. Bauer will introduce the topics to be addressed, as well as the technical panel members and witnesses. I will then swear in the witnesses, who will be questioned in the following order. First by the NTSB technical panel, next by the parties to the hearing, and finally the Board of Inquiry. We may go back to the technical panel and others, just to make sure everybody has an opportunity to get their questions answered, especially because the technical panel will be doing the analysis independently, and they have to make sure that they have all the information that they need. A reminder, no electronics at the witness table. If you need a break, paper airplanes. I'm just kidding. On behalf of the board, just hold up a note. I'd like to thank the many witnesses testifying at this hearing in support of aviation safety. We ask that all witnesses be present, as a reminder, through the conclusion of this hearing, because you may be recalled at any time. I know we might have some recalled today. We'll see how that goes. So Dr. Bauer, please describe the exhibits.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hamady. Exhibits for this hearing include reports produced by NTSB investigative staff, videos, and other documents submitted by the technical panel members, witnesses, and parties to support the testimony and questions you will hear today and tomorrow. The exhibits for this hearing are in the docket. The docket number is SA-544. That's Sierra Alpha 544. The NTSB is authorized by statute to disclose information to carry out its mission, but we protect confidentiality and proprietary information to the extent possible. As such, the exhibits contain redactions. These are the result of negotiations between the parties and the NTSB regarding the disclosure of information claimed to be personally identifiable, security sensitive, or proprietary in nature. Though redacted, the exhibits contain sufficient information so that members of the public can refer to them during the hearing and throughout the NTSB investigation. The exhibits entered into the record and any presentations, along with other records of the investigation, become part of the NTSB public docket and are available via the NTSB website, ntsb.gov. The public docket opened yesterday morning. Party spokespersons and witnesses have been provided electronic copies of the public docket containing the exhibits identified above. The docket is located on the investigation page, which you can access in one of two ways: by visiting ntsb.gov, or if you've joined us in person, you can scan the QR code on the hearing agenda. On the investigation page, you will find the link to the public docket on the right-hand side, just below the map. A transcript of the testimony taken during the hearing will be prepared and entered into the docket as soon as possible. In addition, Mr. Baranovsky will keep a list of any documents admitted during the hearing that are not currently exhibits in the NTSB public docket. These documents will be submitted after the hearing and entered in the docket. As a reminder, if a party to the hearing has a new exhibit to propose in accordance with 49 CFR Section 845.9, it will not be admitted unless the chairwoman determines that good cause has been shown. Chairwoman Hamady, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bauer. We're ready to begin panel 3. Will you please go over the panel topics and introduce the NTSB technical panel and witnesses?
Chairwoman Hamady, panel 3 is on training, guidance, and procedures applicable to DCA air traffic control. The panel will address DCA ATCT facility type, services, radar, visual, and expectations. Training and proficiency of controllers, from initial training of all controllers through individual training and certification at DCA ATCT. Initial classroom, certification, simulation, refresher, recurrent, in compliance with the National Training Initiative and applicable documentation. Training, guidance, and procedures applicable to DCA air traffic control. Resource management, staffing within the tower and combined positions. Separation standards, radar, visual, instrument flight rules, or IFR, visual flight rules, or VFR, and their application. Conflict alerting. An explanation, controller response expectations, nuisance alert prevalence, both in general across the National Airspace System, or the NAS, as well as specific to DCA, ATCT, and this accident. System safety, logic, and alerting, including design, adaptation, and human factors issues such as controller response. Night vision goggles, or aided pilot, the impact to air traffic control. Helicopter holding within the DCA airspace. Traffic flow management, including airport arrival rate, miles and trail, slot program, time-based flow management, and hourly rate fluctuations. The use of circling to runway 33 for offloading, traffic flow, and risk mitigation. ADSB in and out, and the impact to air traffic control operations, and safety risk management panels. The NTSB technical panel, starting down on my right, is composed of Mr. Brian Soper, lead aviation accident investigator for air traffic control. Ms. Sarah Lewis, an aviation accident investigator for air traffic control. Dr. Catherine Wilson, senior human performance investigator. And Captain Van McKinney, aerospace engineer for helicopters. Witnesses for panel 3 are composed of the following individuals from my left nearest the board members. In the front row, we have Mr. Nick Fuller, the Acting Deputy Chief Operating Officer with the Air Traffic Organization of the Federal Aviation Administration. Ms. Mandy Chendi, Traffic Management Officer with the Washington District for the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. Brian Lehman, Air Traffic Manager for the Potomac Consolidated TRACON with the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. Clark Allen, who is the Operations Manager of the DCA ATCT at the time of the accident with the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. James Jarvis, an air traffic control specialist, formerly with the FAA Eastern Service Air Quality Control Group with Lidos. Dr. Kenneth Allendorfer, manager of Human Systems Integration Branch with the Federal Aviation Administration. In the second row, from left to right, we have Mr. Rick Dressler, Aviation Site Manager for MedStar Transport with Metro Aviation Incorporated. Mr. Eric Silverman, an Air Traffic Control and Airfield Operations Manager for the DC, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston Northeast region with American Airlines. And Command Chief Warrant Officer David Van Vechten, former standardization instructor pilot with the Army Aviation Brigade with the U.S. Army. Chairwoman Hamady, these witnesses have been pre-qualified and their respective experience and qualifications appear in the docket as exhibits. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bauer. I'll now ask the witnesses to please stand. Please raise your right hand and please answer by saying, I do. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this hearing will be the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. As a reminder to the witnesses, you will remain under oath until the conclusion of this hearing. We ask that you answer the questions factually and avoid any analysis. If there are questions on whether something is speculation or analysis, your party reps may raise their hand with any sort of concerns, or you may ask me that question or state that you believe it's analysis or speculation. Finally, when you're speaking, please bring the microphone closer. Push the button when you're speaking, and don't forget to turn it off when you're done speaking. I am going to just two things for those who are watching or in the audience, and also the parties and for the panelists. We asked difficult questions yesterday, and we'll do so today. Our objective today is to thoroughly understand crew dynamics and air traffic control and operations. This is a complex and dynamic operating environment, and it is important for us to understand how workload and responsibilities are managed. Second, I asked this yesterday, and I'm going to specifically ask because we really don't, in the federal government, have jurisdiction over the private entities. I'm going to ask this from I guess I will ask Mr. Van Vechten and Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller on behalf of FAA and Mr. Van Vechten on behalf of the U.S. Army. Your whistleblower policy, I asked yesterday, do you protect your employees and contractors from retaliation, harassment, and intimidation?
For the FAA, yes.
Army?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to ensure it's employees and contractors for both.
That's correct.
Okay, great. If that occurs, I will be notified, and I will not hesitate to report that to any Inspector General, Office of Special Counsel, or Department of Justice. I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Soper.
Thank you, Chairwoman. We'll start off with a softball for you. Mr. Allen, could you just give us a brief explanation of the type of facility DCA Airport Traffic Control Tower is, basically the primary services you provide, and what you're involved with there, and is there anything unique about that facility that you feel are important to be understood as we move into all these questions about the guidance and procedures at the tower?
Yes, good morning. DCA is a Level 9 air traffic control tower only.
Sorry, can you stop for a second? The whistleblower status would apply for anything provided during testimony or participation in this hearing and participation in the investigation, correct? FAA?
Correct.
Army?
Yes, ma'am.
Start again, Mr. Soper.
Thank you. Do you need the question repeated, Mr. Allen?
Yeah, one more time.
Great. So could you just give us a brief explanation of the type facility DCA Airport Traffic Control Tower is, the primary services that you provide from that tower, or that tower provides, I should say, and is there anything unique about the DCA Airport Traffic Control Tower that you feel is important to be understood as we move into the questioning about the guidance and the procedures with DCA that you would just like to have at the head of that?
Yeah, good morning. DCA is a level 9 air traffic control tower only. It operates 3 runways in a north configuration and a south configuration. With that, we primarily are made up of airlines servicing the fixed wing traffic, and then law enforcement, medevac, and the various armed services for a significant helicopter operation. With our airspace, there are various prohibited areas adjoining additional level Class Bravo airspaces. It makes up the Washington Tri-Class Bravo. And with DCA towers, unique in the lack of real estate that the airfield has, in the amount of operations that we run. With our ground control, it's unique that they are also ramp control and service the gates and the alleyways. As far as the local control or helicopter control, or both of them actually, in the airspace, operating with the prohibited areas, there's significant VIP flights. There are special missions. There are a significant amount of flybys that occur, so there's a lot of coordination and special operations that occur in the DCA Class Bravo.
You mentioned flybys. For those that might not be aware, what do you mean when you say flybys?
Flybys, we have those for special events, most recently the 4th of July events that transpired, as well as there are flybys at Arlington National Cemetery for fallen soldiers.
Okay, great. Thank you. And do you provide radar services at this facility?
We do.
Okay. And in this facility, the tower is equipped with control tower radar displays that are there for the use and controllers in providing services. Can you explain to us the primary use of these displays and how they are to be used by air traffic controllers to include their benefits as well as the limitations of their use?
Yeah, so our certified tower radar display has a map of the general area, the adjacent facilities, and prominent landmarks. It helps with situational awareness and workload. It is incorporated in what air traffic controllers have as part of their scan. They'll scan that, grab information from it. They'll scan, look out the window. They'll utilize their strips. We have the ASD, the Airport Surface Detection Equipment. It is one tool that comprises the overall scan and how we operate the facility.
Thank you. And one last one in this area, if you could explain for us the positions that you staff in this tower, or that this tower staffs for operating services in a normal configuration. If you could just kind of step us through what those positions are and basically their function in the tower.
Yep. So we'll start with local control. So they are operating the runways, clearing folks to land, clearing them to take off. There is assistant local control. They're an extra set of eyes for the local controller. They help provide sequencing for the departures and the arrivals, and they coordinate with the adjacent facilities or adjacent positions within the tower cab. The ground controller, like I said earlier, operates all the aircraft on the ground as well as provides ramp control for the airfield. There's the helicopter position that controls the helicopters in the Class Bravo airspace as well as the Delegated Security Services airspace. We have a clearance delivery flight data position that maintains the weather, assists with traffic management duties, as well as amending and providing clearances for IFR aircraft. Traffic management unit, they as it says in the title, they assist with anything traffic management related, whether it's getting release times for departures, initiating programs for DCA, in coordinating things of that nature, and then there would be a supervisor or controller in charge that would oversee the entire operation and provide oversight.
What is the basic difference between a supervisor or a controller in charge?
Supervisor would be a management personnel that is overseeing the operation. If one is not available, a controller can be placed as controller in charge to fill that position.
I assume there's a qualification process to be a controller in charge. It's not just any controller could do that duty, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to shift into some separation standards and use of visual separation, which has been a hot topic through this entire investigation. I just want to remind, as we do ask these questions, I know a lot has went on. The FAA has done a lot to mitigate stuff in this airspace already, so there have been things implemented since the time of the accident. But we would like everybody to frame their responses as on the day of the event. What was in place on the day of that event? So the policies, the way things were done, the SOP, everything like that, we want it framed in that because we're still here trying to figure all of that out. Mr. Allen, or I'm sorry, Mr. Fuller, you gave a pretty good definition of this yesterday, so I'd like to ask you to do this for us again and remind us. We've heard a lot about visual separation in this event. Could you briefly explain what visual separation is, how it is applied, and the difference between pilot applied and tower applied visual separation for air traffic?
In Class B airspace, controllers are required to maintain 1.5 miles or 500 feet between fixed-wing aircraft over 19,500 pounds and VFR helicopters. Visual separation is a means by which separation responsibility can be transferred to the pilot after they report traffic in sight. Visual separation, you must ensure that you have Class B separation before and after the application of visual separation, and that's for pilot-applied visual separation. If it were tower-applied visual separation, the tower is still maintaining responsibility for separating the aircraft by visually observing them and providing directions to ensure they don't conflict. On the night of the accident, they were not using tower-applied visual separation. They were using pilot-applied visual separation. Again, the requirement is for the air traffic controller to have Class B separation before and after the application of visual separation.
Okay. And sorry, I lost my place there. Mr. Allen, how prevalent was the use of visual separation at DCA Airport Traffic Control Tower? Could you provide us some of the benefits and limitations to using visual separation?
Visual separation was used on a daily basis between the helicopter operators and the commercial traffic departing and landing at DCA. Visual separation was
the visual separation. Does it relieve the controller of their responsibility to ensure separation?
So I will tell you the responsibility at that point is on the pilot to separate themselves from the other aircraft, and that means to maneuver as necessary to avoid a collision. Now, as an air traffic control professional, we are always going to do the extra mile. If we see a conflict, even if we are applying visual separation, we will still provide additional traffic information and make sure that that pilot understands that they still have that responsibility. I believe in the night of the accident, you heard the controller reach out and provide an additional instruction to the PAT 25 helicopter to ensure they had traffic in sight and they verifying they were still maintaining visual separation. It's the pilot's responsibility, but air traffic controllers will go the extra mile to make sure that we're providing information as necessary.
Okay, thank you. And back to you, Mr. Allen. Was it your experience that the workforce had a clear understanding of the limitations as much as the benefits derived? Do you feel that the operators had a clear understanding of these as well from your experience working there?
From my experience, the controller workforce was well versed in utilizing visual separation, and the helicopter users were very aware of visual separation and what it entailed.
Okay. And Mr. Jarvis, for you, I know that you're on this panel. You conducted compliance verifications as part of the Eastern Service Area Quality Control Group at DCA. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what time frame was that again? From when to when did you do that at DCA?
From when did I?
What year to what year were you? Have you done that service at DCA?
At DCA,
yeah.
From about 2017 till July of 2023.
Okay, so it wasn't that far in the past. When you were there during the compliance verifications that you did do, was visual separation or controllers' application of visual separation or their understanding of it ever a question or a deficiency through those ECVs that you can recall?
Yes.
In what way? Could you expound on that a little bit?
Approximately 2016 to 2017, we conducted an evaluation, and although we did not identify non-compliance, there were situations in which it did not appear the scan was going in the direction that we felt it should have gone. Again, we did not identify non-compliance. We left the facility with a comment, a concern, and from there they took care of that.
So they took care of it. So you were able to follow up with that they provided some sort of mitigation or training to that comment or what you observed while you were there?
Based on data that they had in their facility, internal verification system, they followed up with visual separation, and it looked like they took care of it in that formality.
Okay. Mr. Allen, something that our team found unique when we were listening to audio and observing operations at DC Airport Traffic Control Tower was the pilots almost reflexively requesting pilot-applied visual separation immediately upon receiving an initial traffic advisory or check-in. Do you have a sense of why that is here? Was that something that they encouraged, or was it something that air traffic control offered to them at some point? It struck us as a little odd. I think all of us did, because in most other places I've been, it doesn't quite happen that way. It's usually given traffic, and then they may actually ask the pilot to apply visual separation. Kind of goes.
So with the way the airspace is constructed with the prohibited areas, the way the helicopter route structure and the airfield with the approaches and departures, the way it is all integrated, like I said in your previous question, that visual separation is paramount in order to expedite the flow of all traffic, whether it's the fixed-wing traffic or the helicopter traffic. So in my opinion, any helicopter operator that has been in the area for a length of time understands how the operation works and how it needs to work in order to efficiently move the aircraft. But I would defer to the gentlemen behind me that are the helicopter operators for their opinion.
That's great, and that's where I was going next. Mr. Van Vechten, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yes, sir. With night vision goggles on from Cabin John, I can visually see aircraft landing and departing runway 9 lining up at Wilson Bridge. So it is common practice to identify the aircraft and then call visual separation from a long distance away. As we descend, it can become challenging to maintain constant visual on that aircraft, but if they're landing runway 1 is not a factor because I will be parallel with that traffic.
Okay, and we're going to get back to that a little bit later as well, so thank you. Mr. Dressler, would you like to speak to it, please?
I think here it is a reflexive comment because experienced operators are well aware of the traffic flow in and out of the airport. And I think it was encouraged by DCA Tower in our conversations last year to understand fully visual separation, and it does relieve the controller of some percentage of responsibility that they can then free up and put their attention elsewhere. Many of our members do not accept visual separation, certainly not pilot applied, where my understanding is both pilots need to accept. These would be the law enforcement members who don't have a predictable way to continue visual tracking of aircraft while they're in orbits, let's say, and they don't know where those orbits will end up going. So we do accept it when possible. We do accept it reflexively, but we do have plenty of operators who do not accept it.
So I'm going to remain with you. Have you experienced concern while operating here in the DCA airspace? Have you experienced concern with the application of visual separation, whether pilot applied or tower applied, just from your point of view within this airspace? And do the concerns lie more with one entity or the other? Like, is there one particular unit or a group of units or a type or a facility? You know, is there anything, or is it just all over the map?
Generally speaking, I think it works very well.
Okay.
It has enormous challenges in a night environment. Whether on goggles or off goggles, it's very simple to understand whether north ops or south ops are being used at DCA. It is, I mentioned yesterday, it's still remarkably hard to identify aircraft when you are flying, whether it's the background or a whole host of reasons. It can be very challenging, I think, as every pilot would say. We use traffic alerts and traffic monitoring systems in our helicopters, all the DC operators, the civilian and law enforcement side. And it is exceptionally challenging when you have particular units that don't broadcast using ADSB. Our systems are not TCAS 2, so we do not take in Mode S or Mode C transponders. We rely upon ADSB. And when you cannot see an aircraft and you've been asked if you can identify traffic and you can't see it, and in your visual scan and then scan your instruments and still can't find the aircraft, it can be very challenging.
So in your experience flying in the airspace here, do you feel more or less comfortable when you hear air traffic control or a pilot request visual separation and an air traffic controller approve that, and it could impact you? Do you get a feeling of comfort, discomfort? How does it affect you?
If I know right away the other operators. There are really only a dozen helicopter operators in this area, and know most of them either personally or by voice. I also know all the tower controllers by voice, and they know all of our voices. We have pilots who've been here and members of our group at 38 years, 28 years. I have several pilots at 28 years. My first trip to the DCA tower, one of the controllers who'd been there forever could imitate some of our voices to a T. She could mimic our voices, and we love them. So when I know the tower by voice, and I know the unit, the particular aircraft that on the other end is accepting visual separation from me, I think it works very, very well, and I have extreme confidence in it.
Is there any unit that when you hear it makes you feel uncomfortable?
Sadly, yes. And as I said yesterday, I don't like saying this. I'll say it again on the record. I'm a former Army aviator, and I'm a retired Air Force officer. And I don't like saying that first heli of the USAF from Andrews, and I don't like saying that 12th Aviation Battalion gives us all pause in the community. And I'm speaking for my group there. We we are all very uncomfortable when those two units are operating.
Okay. Mr. Van Vechten, do you request visual separation often when operating in the Class B airspace here?
Yes, I did.
And were you, when you have agreed to provide visual separation, pilot applied, can you explain to me as a helicopter operator, what does that mean to you? What are you taking on, and how do you perform the taskings to ensure that? Like, could you just kind of step me through how that works from inside the cockpit?
Sure. When a air traffic control calls on an aircraft, hey, Pat 17, do you have the aircraft, 11 o'clock, 1 mile, 2,000 feet? I'll say traffic in sight requests visual separation. They'll say visual separation approved, and then I'll continue on route. So I'll maintain the visual separation, keeping myself clear of that aircraft, ensuring that we're not on converging paths.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, you were talking about it was very easy for you, especially under night vision goggles at night, to be able to acquire traffic inbound on runway 1 final and be able to request visual separation right away because you see them, you know where that's at, and they're going. So my question would be, and we've seen in the video in the opening presentation that Mr. Banning showed, when they have aircraft lined up on final out there, there's 6, 7 landing lights out there in that same general direction. We heard that when under NVGs, depth perception is compromised or could be compromised. And I'm trying to understand, how do you know which one to then maintain from the rest of the time? You've got 7.5 miles to fly. Do you literally keep track of the one aircraft? And do you, I mean, like, I'm just kind of curious how that plays out from there.
Sure. DCA Tower, in my experience, has been some of the best controllers I've worked with in my career. They're very good at pointing out the aircraft. And when I'm at Chain Bridge, I'm at 1,300 feet, so it's easy to silhouette the aircraft lined up for runway 1 against the dark sky. Okay. Like I said, as I descend into the tidal basin, it is more difficult, but as they're calling out that traffic, I can maintain separation with them both mainly laterally because they're going to runway 1.
Okay. And Mr. Dressler, in your experience operating the Class B airspace, would you say that visual separation is conservatively relied upon, or would you say that it is over-relied upon, or do you have no opinion?
I think it's a good balance here, actually.
Okay.
We try very hard to collaborate with our industry partners, including the airlines and including our controllers. And if this is the whole purpose of our meetings last year, was to hear concerns and how we can adapt our operations. We have enormous agility in our ability to do that on the civilian and law enforcement side. So if we hear a concern, last year a discussion came up about missed approaches and altitudes in the helicopter working group held at DC Tower, and we can discuss those things openly and come up with a way to mitigate risk. I think it's a very healthy balance here for those who are experienced enough with the DC traffic and the DC route structure.
Okay. And
can I chime in one second again? Mr. Van Vechten over here.
Yes.
We are also a dual pilot aircraft with at least one crew chief on board. So while one pilot is flying the aircraft, the other pilot is maintaining airspace surveillance and dealing with the radios. In this particular instance, there is no radio changes, so the pilot not in the controls will be scanning for traffic. So it's much easier for us to maintain visual separation because we're a dual pilot aircraft.
Do you still do verbal call-outs during that? Like, you know, if the other person is performing those duties of maintaining visual for you, is there an expectation of kind of verbal call-outs back and forth, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I heard that in the earlier audio of this flight back when they were up north of Cabin John. So, Mr. Dressler, how far away for you as an operator, because you have a different mission in the military now, what you're doing today, for you, how far away are you comfortable providing pilot-applied visual separation at night under the same conditions that would have existed basically on the night of the accident, which was basically a clear night with, you know, I mean, it was just generally a clear night with moderate to busier traffic. How far away?
Typically at night, with landing lights on commercial jet traffic, you can see them stacked up all the way south on the Potomac. So I would feel very comfortable with that and the conversation is usually, as Mr. Van Vechten said, it's usually a conversation with tower about the number of aircraft. I would handle visual separation in miles plus without a problem.
Okay. And Mr. Van Vechten, back to you in that same thread with picking them up on the north operation. If you knew that the aircraft called to you was a runway 33 arrival, how does that change things for the ability to keep visual if you were flying essentially the same basic route they were flying that day?
That would be much more difficult because runway 33, as I descend, it would be challenging to pick up that aircraft on the left turn as it's coming in, especially when I get down below 200 feet by Memorial Bridge.
Okay. All right, very well. We're going to shift to a little bit different area here, and we're going to start talking about staffing and resource management at the Airport Traffic Control Tower. Mr. Allen, while you were on site immediately after the accident, the overall facility staffing was being categorized as adequately staffed, meaning you had your number on board versus your number authorized under the staffing workbook was a close number. I think it was 28 on board or 26 on board and 30. Actually, it was 28 authorized at that time. Give me the numbers.
We were authorized 28 at that time.
Yeah, so you were authorized 28. And how many did you have on board? Do you remember, CPCs? It's okay if you don't. We have it in the document. These numbers changed a number of times over the course of the investigation. So
they've changed.
But nonetheless, at that time, they were a very close number. However, that said, every person we spoke with cited staffing as a significant concern. And there was and basically stated there was a lot more to staffing than authorized versus on board. Okay? So, and I think even you were explaining this to us. So can you help us understand the staffing concerns that you had at the time and tell us why, if your authorized was 28 and your on board was 26, why did you feel that staffing was an issue? Could you explain to us how that plays out?
Yeah, there's many factors, variables that go into staffing. So we were authorized 28, and we had a number relatively close to that. I can't recall the exact number. But with that, folks can be on different types of leave, whether it's military leave. There could be release dates coming up, so we know that we have a person and we're going to lose that person. There is paid parental leave available as a benefit. And when you're looking at the staffing, you can kind of look into the future and see if, this person counts towards the CPC number, but there are extra variables where they're part of the whole number, but yet they're unable to be in the operation on the daily schedule.
Okay. And in the most recent numbers we've received from the FAA for DCA, if I'm not mistaken, they're showing the authorized at 30. And Mr. Fuller, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you're on top of these. So the authorized is 30, and the onboard is, I want to say 26. Is that right, Mr. Fuller? The problem that we see is that when we look at all those, they have 19 operational, which means that they have 19 that can actually plug in, work a position, and staff the schedule. How many shifts do you have to fill in a day, Mr. Allen, at DCA?
Including supervisors and TMU, you would want 9 people in the morning, 9 on the evening shift, and then you would have 2 for the mid. So that's a total of 20.
Yes, and I believe that in the actual documents that were given, just the CPC staffing was 16 shifts in a day. And so if you have 19 operational controllers and you're filling 16 shifts in a day, now we can start to see why probably controllers are saying staffing is a problem, right? Is that accurate? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That would be accurate.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Mr. Fuller, having a much larger view of the overall staffing picture for air traffic organization as a whole, how would you categorize the staffing at DCA as compared to other like-type facilities across the NAS? Is it similar and not much different, or is there a big variance? What do you see?
The staffing at DCA for a Level 9 tower is commensurate with other facilities of like size.
Okay. Mr. Allen, shifting away from the staffing and onto resource management, which for everybody here, resource management, when we speak to that, we're talking about the actual use of available resources to staff the required positions over the course of a shift or day. And from your perspective, was the tower adequately staffed from a resource management standpoint on the night of the event?
On the night of the event, it was.
Okay. The OS had been, we noted in looking at the logs and stuff that the OS had been on position since about 1823 local that evening. And at the time of the event, that put him on position for about 186 minutes, or just over 3 hours. Is this routine for an OS staffing, or is there any concern about an OS being on position for that amount of time?
Can you, for
Operations
people?
Supervisor,
Thank
I
you.
apologize. I tried to get them all. Operations Supervisor.
For the operations supervisor, they are managing the shift, and they can, like we had described earlier, they could put a controller in charge and take breaks as they needed in order to be an effective supervisor and provide oversight.
So you would have categorized that as normal, or not out of the ordinary?
It was not out of the ordinary.
Okay. At the time of the accident, the helicopter and local control positions were combined, and they had been since 1540 local that day. And they had only been decombined for a total of about an hour and 20 minutes on that entire day. In your SOP, in the standard operating procedures, it states that helicopter control should normally be decombined between the hours of 10 o'clock a.m. and 21:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. It further stated that the operations supervisor or controller in charge has the discretion to combine or decombine helicopter and local control positions after considering a list of about 7 items that are listed in your SOP. One of the factors to consider in that is helicopter traffic volume within the DCA Class B airspace. Is there a particular threshold of helicopter traffic volume that would warrant combining or decombining the positions or combining the positions, or is that completely up to the discretion of the supervisor? How does that work?
For helicopter volume, it is subjective to the person providing the services. So I may be able to control 5 helicopters and it be no volume for me, and maybe you could only manage 2, or vice versa, whatever that may be. So it's subjective to each controller as to what volume is to them.
Okay. And when you read the SOP, your interpretation of its current writing of most, let me rephrase it again, should normally be decombined through those hours. How much liberty do you expect an operations supervisor to take with that? And what I mean is, are there particular things that you expect? Yes, I expect them to do it for training, or if it's required and they meet all the other guidelines. I guess I'm just struggling a little bit. Let me ask a different way. Did an hour and 20 minutes for the full day seem off to you? Would you expect that helicopters would have been staffed more on that over an entire day?
No, there's many variables that go into making those decisions.
Okay, such as?
The list that's referenced in the standard operating procedure throughout the day. So we just previously discussed staffing. So if staffing, if folks are out sick or whatever may be, that we don't have the appropriate staffing that day, we may have to prioritize and adjust our resources in another direction. There could be weather. Multiple factors can occur at any time, and we have to adjust our priorities in order to continue to provide a safe and efficient operation.
Okay. And we read in the SOP, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it states in there that when combining the positions, the operations supervisor or controller in charge will annotate this in the facility log with the time and reason when helicopters is combined during the normal helicopter hours. Was that still the policy on that day?
I don't believe it was on that day. It had been, that language had been removed sometime before.
Okay. All right, I might be mixing up two versions there, and we'll check to be sure. How do the local control and helicopter positions coordinate when they're decombined, when they are separate?
When they're decombined, they can coordinate utilizing point-out feature and scratch pad entries on the radar displays that they have, or verbal coordination.
Okay. Does a facility track how often positions are combined and decombined as a metric within the facility?
We have the ability to, and we do review staffing and resources.
Okay. Do you recall, I think that, historically up until around 2023's SOP change maybe, or something like that, or was it 24, when they actually went to should normally? Prior to that, it was a mandatory, I think immediately prior to that, it was mandatory unless it was IFR, the OM could approve, or the supervisor could approve combining during IFR operations or instrument flight rules when the weather is such. Since that was made, do you know, did the facility monitor that at all to see if we were opening the floodgates to just not having to staff a position, or were we still trying to staff it as often as possible? When I read that as should normally be staffed during those hours, that barring extenuating circumstances like the ability to conduct training or a staffing shortage on that day, or IFR conditions, which I don't have any helicopters, then I expect it to be staffed, right? That's the way I look at it. Others will view that as, well, it's my discretion. If I didn't feel like it was really needed that day, I just cannot do that. I'm just kind of wondering if the facility monitored that in any way or had discussions as they made that change to ensure that the understanding was that controllers, you still should be staffing that as much as possible outside of those exceptions.
The meetings that I conducted with the supervisors was they did have the discretion as it is written in the SOP, and that we discussed resource management and how to be dynamic in how you utilize your resources. Like we had discussed earlier, there's staffing concerns, there is weather moving in, there's a big push for training and folks to get trained so we can have more CPCs to alleviate these other concerns. So there's never just one factor that may not allow the position to be open or to allow it to be open. It's usually a multi-factor dynamic decision.
Okay.
Can you pause?
against their own citizens in the east of Ukraine. Even after that, we agreed with the Minsk package of measures enshrined by Security Resolution 2201. The goal here was not only restoring control by Ukraine over the eastern part of the country, but also a number of very important steps that Kiev had to undertake. As we all know today, the Minsk process from the very inception was considered by the Western sponsors of Kiev as a screen to speed up the arming of Ukraine and prepare Ukraine for the war with Russia. They were encouraged by the idea to use Ukraine as a kind of ram so as to inflict military defeat on Russia, or at least to bleed it dry. The Western sponsors of Kiev ignored